No one heard you. 4 minutes later, the person sitting in the middle of the table repeated exactly what you had said, word for word. Everyone nodded. Your manager turned toward him and said, "Interesting. Tell me more." You watched your idea get heard in someone else's voice. Then you looked down at the glass of water in front of you. A ring of condensation had formed around it. You wiped it away with your finger, pretending you were doing something that mattered. It was your second week as an intern, $15 an hour. You did not have a desk. You sat on a folding chair that had been added near the conference room door. One leg was uneven, so you spent the entire meeting holding it steady with the tip of your shoe to keep it from making noise. 30 people sat around a long table. You were not at the table. You were outside its gravitational pull. During your first week, people mispronounced your name 3 times. By the second week, no one tried anymore. Not because they had learned it, because they no longer needed it. Your manager's name was David. Whenever he stood at the whiteboard explaining quarterly strategy, he never looked toward the door. He was not deliberately ignoring you. Your position simply did not fall within his natural line of sight. You were like the router sitting in the corner of your living room, always working, never looked at. You thought about it all night, and eventually you understood something. Attention in that room was distributed in exactly the same way as money. You earned $15 an hour. After taxes, administration, and overhead, the company probably spent about $20 a day for you to exist there. A 1-hour meeting with 30 people cost the company roughly $2,800 in total compensation. Your $20 was the smallest number in the room. Where a voice comes from matters more than what the voice says. And where is not a physical location. It is a price tag. You were not being ignored in that room. You simply did not trigger anyone's social recognition system. People discussed you in the third person while you were standing right there. The intern can help organize this, as if you were a function, not a person in the room. That folding chair wobbled all summer. Your foot held it steady all summer. No one noticed the sound, and no one noticed when the sound disappeared. Your internship ended. They kept you. A full-time offer, $55,000 a year. You had your own desk now, your own email address. Your name appeared in the company organization chart on Slack. You thought things had changed. David nodded when he passed you in the hallway for the first time, but you quickly measured the radius of that nod. He nodded to you from 6 feet away. To Rachel, 3 feet. For the vice president, he walked over. Distance was not personality. Distance was pricing. At lunchtime, the team went downstairs to a place that sold $16 salads. Your after-tax hourly pay was $21. That salad cost 45 minutes of your labor. You joined them 3 times. The 4th time, you brought your own lunch. No one asked why you had stopped coming. Your disappearance was never mentioned. That, by itself, was information. Every month, you received your paycheck, $3,400 after taxes. You looked at that number. Then you calculated another one. The company's real cost of employing you was roughly your salary, multiplied by 1.3. Insurance, payroll taxes, office space, equipment, management time, about $70,000 a year. What did that mean? It meant that every day you sat at that desk, a line on an HR spreadsheet was evaluating you. Was this person a positive return investment or an expense waiting to be eliminated? When your manager decided whether to invite you to a meeting, he was not making a social decision. He was doing math. Your hourly cost minus the value you might produce during that hour. If the result was positive, you were invited. If it was negative, your name was not on the list. You were not excluded from certain meetings because someone forgot. You were excluded because someone calculated. You were finally present, but being present did not feel warm. It felt like being placed on a scale and weighed every day. Then, you did something. You left. You joined a competitor and moved up 1 level. Your salary jumped from $55,000 to $85,000. You stayed there for 2 years. Then you came back. The same company, the same building, the same floor. But your offer was $120,000. That number was higher than David's. You knew because HR made a mistake. A compensation review email was copied to the wrong person. David's salary band topped out at $115,000. He had worked at the company for 12 years. You had worked there for 4. During your first week back, the laws of physics changed. When David saw you in the hallway, he did not just nod anymore. He spoke. in complete sentences. Your name was now pronounced correctly. Rachel sent you a private message on Slack asking whether you wanted to get lunch at the $16 salad place. 2 years earlier, you had disappeared from that table. No one had asked a single question. You had not changed. Your resume had gained 2 extra lines. But the social physics of that hallway had not been recalculated according to your resume. They had been recalculated according to the number. There is a concept called the loyalty penalty. The data is clear. Employees who remain at the same company typically receive annual raises of 3 to 4%. People who change jobs often receive increases of 10 to 20%. You left for 2 years and returned with a 118% increase. Had you stayed and received 4% a year, it would have taken you 8 years to reach the same number. Companies do not reward loyalty. They reward evidence that someone else wants you. And salary secrecy does not exist to protect your privacy. It exists to prevent everyone from discovering the size of the loyalty penalty at the same time. If everyone in the building could see everyone else's compensation tomorrow, half of them would update their resumes within 2 weeks. Pay secrecy does not protect employees. It protects the stability of the system. You finally understood. The way people treated you at work did not gradually adjust to your ability. Ability grows slowly, continuously, but numbers are discrete. They jump, and the office responds to jumps, not accumulation. You sat inside the $16 salad restaurant with Rachel across from you, talking about a project collaboration. You took a bite. The same salad. 2 years earlier, it had cost 45 minutes of your labor. Now it cost 12. The salad had not changed. Your mouth had not changed. What changed was the invisible price tag attached to your wrist, and all the friendliness you were receiving now forced you to face one conclusion. It was not because you had become a better person. 3 years later, you were a director. Total compensation, $220,000. $170,000 in base salary, plus a bonus. Now you sent the meeting invitations. You decided who appeared on the CC line. You decided which emails received a response first. Then something happened for the first time. You walked into a meeting 2 minutes late. The conversation stopped. Not because you had interrupted anything, because they had been waiting for you. You sat down. Someone began presenting. They were presenting to you. Your physical presence in that room changed the direction of every voice. Remember, you once realized that where a voice comes from matters more than what it says. Now you were the direction. At this level, you learned something else. Once your base salary reached $170,000, the structure of your compensation changed fundamentally. A bonus was no longer an extra reward. It was a designed component of your total compensation. The company was no longer buying only your time. It was buying your decisions. And the true purpose of a bonus was to price the risk of you leaving. The harder you were to replace, the larger the bonus portion became. Your compensation was no longer based on what you were worth. It was based on what losing you would cost. Then David appeared on your calendar. A request for a one-on-one meeting. He walked into your office. You had an office now. He sat in the visitor's chair, the same position where you had once sat in his office. He wanted to discuss his career development. It took you 4 seconds to understand. He was asking you for help. The man who had once looked straight through you now needed you to see him. You noticed that your first reaction was not empathy. Your first reaction was a calculation. What value would helping him create for me? The thought lasted less than a second, but it appeared. You were not cold-blooded. You had simply discovered that once you sat on the side people approached, your brain automatically began running the same algorithm they had once used on you. You had not chosen to become this way. The position came with its own operating system. You noticed something else. The folding chair was still beside the conference room door. A new intern was sitting on it, holding one uneven leg steady with the tip of his shoe throughout the meeting. You saw him, but you did nothing. You let it continue. At the year-end company meeting, you sat at the head of the long table. 40 people were in the room. Your total compensation was now more than $400,000. Base salary made up only 40%. The rest came from restricted stock, performance bonuses, and deferred compensation. You were no longer being paid. You were being bound. If you left, you would not lose only your monthly salary. You would lose 3 years of unvested equity. This was the highest form of golden handcuffs. The larger the number you owned, the less freedom you had. Halfway through the meeting, the intern near the door raised his hand. He said something. You heard the first half of the sentence. Then your phone vibrated, a message on Slack. You looked down for a moment. By the time you looked up, someone else was already speaking. You did not know what the intern had said. You did not know his name. It had taken you 8 years to move from that folding chair to this end of the table. It took you less than 1 second to become David. You had done nothing malicious. You had not deliberately ignored him. You were simply doing what everyone else in the room was doing, directing your attention toward the voice with the largest number beside it. You did not need to actively silence anyone. You only needed to exist. Your number ranked the entire room for you. The intern looked at you. You recognized the expression. It was the look that said, "Why did no one hear me?" On his face, you saw your own face from 8 years earlier. After the meeting, you returned to your office and closed the door. You sat in the chair you had once been allowed to enter only as a visitor. You thought about the sentence you had spoken during your first week. The sentence no one had heard. You could no longer remember what it was. You only remembered how it felt when no one listened. Now you knew the answer. An office has never distributed attention according to who is right. It distributes attention according to who is expensive. Where a voice comes from matters more than what the voice says. And where was never the place you stood. It was the number written beside you. You did not break the rule. You spent 8 years putting it on. The folding chair was still beside the door. One leg was still uneven. Tomorrow, someone new would sit there, holding it steady with the tip of a shoe and pretending not to exist. And you would sit at the other end of the table without seeing them. Not because you chose not to see, because the system did not need you to choose. You were the system.